Going?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sweetcast. I've got a special guest today. This is Ari. Welcome.
Hi, that's
Uh,
me.
yeah. So we're going to talk about a few things today. Swamp Thing Rises. Apparently, there's a teaser trailer. I just watched it, so that's something interesting. And then, of course, the Mark Waid lawsuit is always ever growing. So those are a few things we're going to talk about. Uh, Ari, why don't you show us though? Well, before we get into everything, I'm going to lock the screen on you. And why don't you show us your project you've got on Indiegogo right now?
Okay. It's called Wicked, and it's a comic book series that I was hoping that would become a serialized series that I adapted from an indie game that I was originally working on. So the entire basis of this project was originally to be a video game, but I converted it into a comic book when the video game fell through because I was originally writing the narrative of the story, but for development reasons, project didn't really work out. So I made it into a comic. The
Wow.
entire story is about, well, the one shot in particular is about when this universe crashes into another universe, but the universe that crashed into the other universe was a fantasy world. And the universe that's melding with it is kind of like our reality. So as the story progresses, if it becomes a serialized series, we're going to see the world kind of transmigrate and change drastically into somewhat of an urban fantasy. But
Great.
the story starts out in like modern day, like you could look out your window, and then it's slowly just going to transform as the story initially progresses. Believe it or not, I've actually had a lot of problems making this comic book. One of the problems is DeviantArt. People in there are, best word to describe it is robots. A lot of people message people, then say, I'm going to do something. Then they don't contact you for weeks.
You
And
mean like for getting an artist for
yeah,
the
getting an
project? Oh,
artist is very hard. I had a prior artist. He ghosted me for 45 days and told me he was doing something, but he was really doing nothing.
hmm.
So originally, I was supposed to have like a couple pages, but before I got Joseph to work on it, who worked on the video game No More Room in Hell, and he also worked on Contagion. Um, I got him like 4 weeks ago, so he wasn't able to produce a lot of pages because the prior artist kind of did nothing, and I sent him money too. He says he has a situation, but he didn't seem to have a situation when I sent him money.
So is this the art that we're seeing here on the front? There's that Joseph.
Uh, this is done by my friend Binju, who is just a conceptual artist. And Joseph did all this art because he also works on comic books as well. He did Outrider, Hellgorithm, 80s Cop, and The Wrench, which are published independently by a variety of other people.
Very cool. All right, so I put the link in the chat there, and so yeah, you guys are interested in Wicked. It's right there, and we'll probably drop the link throughout. We have Scott in the chat as well. Scott, how are you doing?
Hey, brother, I'm good, man. Just
Very
came
good.
off of John Malin's stream.
Busy man.
I know.
And you got Door Kickers. Do you have a date yet when that's coming out on Indiegogo?
So I haven't. I think I want to do it the first Tuesday. Remember, Tuesday's your first Tuesday of July is what I'm shooting for.
Cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
As long as I've got the first like 5 pages of the book, like inked colored and lettered, then I feel like that's kind of like the key piece of art I need to be able to launch. And then I've already got a good estimate from my artist that we should be complete with inks and pencils by the end of the campaign. So then it's just colors and lettering after the campaign.
That's great. Yeah, it should be a fast turnaround time then. And then excuse me, we've against all odds, we're streaming right now. I've got to warn everybody, my computer is making terrible noises. And so I really hope that the stream doesn't cut out. So we'll hopefully we'll survive this. It'll be just fine. And then everyone in chat, we have Adam AF, hello, Gigadeath, welcome. Scott, both in the chat and in the panel, I guess we're gonna call it. Arnaud across or Rose, sorry about that. Welcome. So yeah, and I just want to remind everybody that I'm finally monetized. So yeah, feel free to super chat if you feel the need, or you can ultra chat still too, and just at Sweetcast if you really want me to catch what it is that you're gonna say. Have either of you seen the new Swamp Thing Rises DC teaser trailer?
Yeah, I have actually.
Is that the one where Swamp Thing looks completely different?
It's really dark. It was hard. The one I saw anyway, it was really hard to see much of anything but a swamp. His head pokes up and then you see him open like red eyes.
Oh, I haven't seen that then.
I don't. I know Swamp Thing. I think Swamp Thing's real name is like Alec. I don't want to say it's Kirkman. I think it's Whistle or something. I think they're adapting the storyline where there's this the Parliament of Trees, and there's this entity called Decay, and he's like obsessed with death, and he kidnaps this woman. It's from the original story from I think it's from Grant Morrison. I don't remember the story too well because it's been a while, but I think they're actually doing that story. It's pretty dark.
Well, this is it. This is the end of the teaser trailer. I could play it, but no one's going to be able to hear anything because that's not how Google Hangouts work.
Let's just do some like key images.
This is like this is not like a regular player. It's like Instagram. So I can push play. This is the end of it. I don't know how to wait. Yeah, I can hear it. That's it. That's the end. Wonder if it'll replay. No, I just want to watch it. No.
Have you been watching Doom Patrol?
No, I haven't.
It's actually really good. I don't know what the hell they were doing with Titans. The problem with the TV show with Titans was that it was fundamentally setting up every other TV show. So they didn't really focus on plot or characters. But whoever's screenwriting Doom Patrol, which I think Brian Hill's actually on, they're doing a really good job.
Well,
that's on the streaming service, right?
Yeah.
I heard that may be on its last legs.
Really?
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter today or yesterday.
It just started.
Twitter, it's got to be true.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Netflix has been going through some serious problems as well. So I've got here's the Swamp Thing. You'll be able to see it. You're not missing much with the audio, but let me play it and you guys can see what you think.
You guys know the character probably better than I do. I know him literally from the movie from the 80s.
You don't remember whoever looks in the eyes of Swamp Thing sees their worst fear or burn at the sight of fear?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. That was the whole burnt. Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
Yeah, he just farted in the swamp.
Nice.
Here we go. Hot tub effect.
I wonder if Poison Ivy's going to be on the TV show.
There you go.
Makes sense.
And there's red eyes.
I was going to say, Clint, you got a lock on your screen, brother.
I did. I'm pretty sure I did.
Oh, I guess. Oh, yeah, no. I'm sorry. I've got.
Yeah, you've got a lock.
Look at that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was it. That's all there is to it. The music was scary sounding music, and then I don't know, like typical music you'd hear from something that's supposed to be scary. But yeah, that's Swamp Thing. I didn't even know this was coming until I was actually just looking around right before the stream to see what is going on, and this is one of those things. To me, DC has had better luck with their TV series in general, just generally speaking, than they have with their films. So I don't know, like I have more hope for it. I have no idea where it's being shown. I guess I didn't pay all that much attention. Let's see, maybe it says here. They just posted that on Instagram.
Actually, DC TV is kind of like the CW. That's kind of getting underwhelming.
Yeah. Have you guys watched all that? The Flash and all the Green Arrow and all that?
Especially like shows like Supergirl with their agendas. Then you got the Flash. It's not even about the Flash. It's about Flash, that one other character, that other character, and Nora messing up 80% of the time.
Yeah, I was watching Green Arrow pretty religiously, and then I stopped for like the last season. So not the current season, the last one. I started watching it when it came out on Netflix, and I just didn't care anymore.
The first 2 seasons are pretty damn amazing.
I can
Yeah,
honestly say that I've never had any interest at all in any of those programs.
yeah.
I don't know why.
Gotham. I actually enjoyed
Gotham's
Gotham.
ending tonight.
Is that the end? At
Yeah,
least they
they're in
know.
season finale. They have
At least they
Batman in
know
it
what
and everything.
Oh wow. Yeah, I'm not very caught up. I watch what's on Netflix, and even then, I'm still not caught up. All I do now is write comics and make YouTube videos. But I don't know. In general, it seemed like they had some pretty strong, like a pretty strong showing for TV, and their movies were terrible. And now maybe we're getting kind of a switch, at least with some of the titles. But I will say, yeah, the TV shows have definitely, I've lost interest in them for sure.
I'm interested in DC, the streaming service, because they can write whatever the hell they want.
Yeah.
But on TV, too many restrictions.
You know, you
Yeah.
know, you know, they really have a chance though with the movies to really pick up the ball if Marvel continues to go in the direction that I think if Captain Marvel and then it proves out through um, the new Avengers movie and then it goes just more SJW after that. If it becomes all agenda, I think the
Yeah.
DC has a really good chance.
Yeah. That definitely turns me off. And it was the same thing with, I gave Sabrina a try. I watched like half of one episode and was like, nope, it was just feminism.
Are you talking about the which one, the new one?
Yeah.
I watched the entire thing, but I was doing
The
something
Satan
else.
worshiping witch.
Yeah. I was like, we thought we'd give it a try. And yeah, it was a little too Satan-y, I guess, but it was too
Yeah,
it was too like feminist for me. It kind of, I don't know, it was irritating. The whole premise of the first episode was like Me Too in a nutshell. And it's just a big caricature of what it's supposed to be like. Everyone's just so sexist, and I don't know. It was terrible.
I couldn't do that. I mean, I just saw the whole it was like her being essentially enticed into a satanic cult, and I was just like, no, I don't think I can go there.
Yeah, I seriously half an episode, if that. We got Dan Fan in the chat. I don't know if I say that right or not, but welcome. She says, feminism is bad when even the women hate it. Yeah, my wife was like, no thanks. My wife is totally anti-feminist, and it's awesome. I love that. So
The problem with the Sabrina show is that it constantly contradicts itself, especially Sabrina as a character. I did watch it,
Yeah.
but while I was watching it, I was doing like programming stuff and level design stuff. So it's kind of just a background filter. And it's really jarring when you have one of the characters start yelling and saying, well, Hitmaster X, Y, and Z is just a misogynist and it's called Top Boy and no one wants Top Girl because it's Top Boy. It's
That's
really dumb.
oh my god.
yeah,
And the entire point of, being a Satanist is worshiping Satan, and Satan's a man. Sabrina's all like, I'm not going to bow down to this man, but you get your power from this guy. So you have to.
I didn't think about it that way.
just contradicts
You
itself
got a point there. Gateway into Comics is in the chat too. Hey Gateway, he says my girlfriend thinks feminism is a mental illness. Awesome. See, there are a lot lot good women out there.
The great thing about feminism is it's been around long enough now to where you got different kinds of feminists, and they argue with each other now. Like you've got your second wave traditional feminists who are at odds with the identitarian, the progressive stack feminists that want transgenders to be included in feminism, and it's just
intersectional feminism. Yeah.
They just want to So it's pretty interesting. I kind of like just pop some popcorn and watch them go at it.
I know. It's the self-destruct already built in. So Yeah, I don't know. They're already losing a lot of power. Yeah, so Mark Waid, guys. I know none of this is like new news. Oh, I better share my screen. None of this is new, but the thing is, we had so much information that was dumped at us all at once that it takes a little while to cover some of this stuff. I think I'm going to pull up the chat too, just so I can see what everyone is saying, and that way we will be good. There's Mark Waid, and there's the chat. Very cool. Waid, fists in the air.
I have a comic. I have the trade paperback of Spider-Man. What's him call it? What did he write? Family Business. I have his autograph, but it's kind of old.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I'm giving it away on my Indiegogo.
I have Black Widow that Mark Waid wrote. I got into Black Widow after once Phil Noto started doing Black Widow, and I collected all of them.
No, you and Phil Noto. Here we go again.
I know. But then I continued with Black Widow, and then it was Mark Waid and forget the artist's name. But yeah, now I'm like, I don't even want this book anymore.
Okay, now I got a question.
Yeah.
Am I the only one that's like, oh, Tom King, when you just read his Batman stuff?
Like you like it or you hate it?
No, I just hate it. Especially the entire Nightmare storyline.
Yeah.
It was just essentially about nothing. Like the Fast 25 issue.
Yeah.
He's in a nightmare. It's like he sat down with DC and he said, this is the entire story. Okay, Batman, he goes through the abyss, right? And when you think he can climb out, I break his arms, and he just stays there the entire time. The end. It's not good.
I'll be honest. I stopped buying all mainstream comics. And I think Adam AF in the chat mentioned it easier. Once you go full CG, your priorities change. But yeah, I mean, and it's not that I wouldn't, but yeah, it's like it costs a lot of money to produce a comic book, and that's part of the thing. But yeah, I'm like, I've only been buying indie comics now, so I haven't been following the latest Batman stuff. Though I've heard that Tom King's run has been garbage. That's what I've seen on Twitter anyway.
Well, it started off really good, but then after like 25, it just went downhill.
Yeah,
it seemed like he had a clear vision for like, I am Gotham, I am Bane, I am Suicide. Then after the War, Jokes and Riddle, it just sucked. But Peter Tomasi's Batman, man, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I illegally downloaded a couple of issues of those because I wouldn't pay for them. And the thing that struck me is like, so, in the old school 80s, back issues, you've got these great, wonderful small moments in each issue where they bring a little of their regular life or their struggle into the story, right? And it's like, oh, it's a superhero, but then they share a little bit, and that's great because you get a little slice of life, but really that's not what you're there for. His entire thing is like all slice of life, very little like super heroism, and it's just like, dude, that's not what we're here for.
Well, it's like Heroes in Crisis. I haven't read any of that, but I've seen
horrible.
So many clips of it that I just, is it really just people sitting around getting therapy for 6 issues or however long it goes?
That's what it looks exactly like. What it looks like.
It's a Booster Gold story, so it has time travel shenanigans in it too. There's a part where Batgirl and Harley Quinn team up. They start fighting for like a page, then they start hugging it out. It's pretty strange.
Yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't interest me whatsoever. So let's jump over to Mark Waid. So in his statement, they confronted him. That's one of the things that I love about the whole this whole lawsuit is that these crazy ideas are going to be confronted. That's what I love. So, and of course, Mark Waid's going to double down, and he states that Richard Meyer subscribes to white supremacist principles. So it doesn't even say ideas, or, well, I guess I don't know if that's a quote here. And so let's read what he has here. This is from Meyer. This is from your boy Zach. Waid intentionally published statements of fact to his followers and the general public regarding Meyer, including falsely stating that Meyer published the first and last name of comic book store employees to encourage owners to harass and threaten them, as well as characterizing Meyer as a racist serial harasser of minorities and as affiliated with white supremacists. Those states were false and were published by actual knowledge of or reckless disregard for statements falsity. That is a weird way to word that, but I'm going to go with it. Yeah, so that's the allegation. I've heard this so many times about the whole, like, there was a list of stores that that your boy Zach wanted to be boycotted or whatever. And I feel like this has been pretty clearly disproven that there was, that was the intent. There was a list that was put together by Yellow Flash. He since deleted it, I know, but this was a long time ago. So, yeah, I don't know. You guys know much about this list? Comic retailers?
Not really.
Yeah. Yeah, so my understanding was there was a list of comic book retailers who said they would not carry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they would not carry his book, Jawbreakers. They wouldn't carry it because they, didn't approve or something. And then because of that, there was a list going around of which retailers refused to, store the book or whatever, all this kind of stuff. Problem is, even if there was a list, there's nothing illegal about boycotting. I mean, people on the far left do it all of the time, like Chick-fil-A, for example. I mean, it's endless. So I don't see how that is any kind of justification for tortious interference. But what do I know? I mean, I'm no lawyer.
Oh, my comic book shop almost closed last month. And they start, selling all the bad books and only did the good books, and now they can stick around. They stopped selling stuff like what's it called? West Coast Avengers? Nope. And this all the bad stuff no one reads.
Didn't that get canceled? West Coast Avengers?
Yeah, I think it did.
Oh, yeah. Again, like it's so hard to keep up with this kind of stuff because I don't care anymore. I've let them. They're lying in the bed that they've made.
I only know that because I saw Zach's thumbnail for his video today, and it's got West Coast Adventures canceled.
Ah, okay. Well, it makes sense. I mean, for how many books they're putting out, especially, they could afford to lose some losers. That's for sure. Yeah, and I'm glad your store is staying in business. I hope they. Just last month they were almost out of business, huh? I'm glad they. Hopefully they're big enough changes that they can start doing better.
Like the X-Men books are terrible. I mean, Uncanny is okay right now, but seriously, who's reading this? You need like a master degree or basically a master in research to understand what's going on in X-Men. You got Age of X, then you got Next Gen X and XYZ. There's too many books. But what I'm pretty excited for is Jonathan Hickman's coming back. And he writes really good books.
He seems like a really, I hope I'm not proven wrong really quickly, but he seems like a really down to earth guy and not, I don't want to say he's conservative, but he's definitely not like far left. That's for sure. Just from like interviews I've seen of him. But I don't know. I've never heard him say anything about Comicsgate. So I don't know.
Who are you talking about?
Jonathan Hickman. Yeah.
He wrote Ultimates. He created The Maker and did the entire storyline where what happened? They had 2 Infinity Gauntlets and Reed Richards tried to blow up America because he went crazy.
He started out at Image, I think. It was where he started. He did the Manhattan Project, I believe. Yeah, he's a really accomplished writer now. But he's a very like no nonsense, matter of fact, down to earth kind of guy. So
it's really funny just been talking about comics for the last, I don't know, 6 months. This kind of as I've been getting back into it with CG. there's a lot that happened after 2000 that, anything after 2000, I literally have no knowledge of.
Yeah.
Would you believe it if I told you Michael Bendis was my favorite writer until recently? Because have you read any of his old stuff, like Marvel Knights?
No. His old stuff is Jinx and AKA Goldfish, which is how I met him at San Diego Comic Con back in like '97, and we went out drinking, and he was awesome. He was a really cool dude.
Yeah.
I really loved his run on Daredevil. That was like one of the best runs.
Yeah, see, I missed him at. I didn't get any of his stuff at because the Ultimates came out after I checked out of comics.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I got to think there's more cool creators out there. It just feels like they're silenced, by people like Mark Waid. How's that for a transition? All right. Okay, so I've got some lines here for you, and this was, did you guys watch any of this on Ricada Law? He read through the entire deposition, and he did a good job of it. But this kept coming up, object to form. And it was really interesting. I didn't know this was a thing, but they object, but you still have to answer the question. So the objections are almost just like
perfunctory.
Yeah, kind of weird. So this is a lawyer said, do you have any basis to substantiate the contention that Mr. Meyer is a white supremacist? And the real world has a good definition for white supremacist, but Mark Waid has his own definition. This is something totally separate. He says, I would say the materials I provided to the court is various social media posts about how, it's the one about the, it's not. Okay, first off, I'm going to pause there. It really, yeah, it really sounds like he's got nothing here. All the stuff that he provided there, I didn't see any evidence of white supremacy, but we'll let him continue. What a sideshow or a circus or whatever, when you hire black people for comics, that sort of thing, that's in there. Yeah, absolutely. At least indicate a propensity toward what me and what we refer to as white supremacy these days. It's a pretty broad spectrum, and that was the worst one. Yikes.
Yeah. That was even hard to follow when Nick read it the other night. I mean,
yeah.
So I'm going to pull a feather out of my communications guy hat, and so we've all experienced this on Twitter. I know you have, Clint, and I don't know if you have, but the idea is that he's a racist. She says he's a racist. It's well known by many different people that he's a racist. So the initial instance of an allegation doesn't even have to be grounded in any real, substantiated truth. It just becomes this kind of, oh, well, everybody on our side knows he's a racist. And it's kind of like, once you're a Trump supporter, right, then you're a Nazi, or you're a racist for sure, but maybe you may also be a Nazi.
Yeah.
So, and it's just this snowball effect of everybody knows Trump supporters are Nazis. So, I mean, this is a big problem, and it's a communication tactic that they use. And it's, it's hard to really kind of break them out of it.
Right. And this works for, I made this whole video. You and I we had a private phone conversation. We still need to do a stream on that sometime about public relations. I think that'd be really interesting for a lot of people. But I made that video on it. And a lot of it is, if you're trying to convince the public, all you have to do is pretend that you have evidence of it, or you just, if it looks like evidence from a 100 miles away, then it's good enough as evidence. And so that's how things work on Twitter, to sway public opinion that he's a white supremacist, because they can just say he's a white supremacist, and as long as you get enough people agreeing it and saying that it's true, then it's true. However, in court, it's a totally different animal. Not the same thing whatsoever. So this is, I think, one of the most important things is that he's going to have his feet to the fire to define what exactly he means by white supremacy. Because it's the rest of the world that actually means something. All right, let's see the next one. This is the lawyer again. Do you have any documentation or other evidence of Mr. Meyer directly espousing white supremacist doctrines, or are you inferring from the materials you submitted to the court that he must think that way? Mark Waid says, are you asking, is there a specific moment when I am aware of he said I am white supremacist? Wow, you can tell he's sweating bullets. Just how these sentences are formed.
Sweating buckets.
Yeah. And then the lawyer says, or espouse principles you associate with white supremacists. Mark Waid, I associate. Absolutely. Again, I stepped on you. I apologize. Okay, so this is, I don't even know why they included that in the article. He's sweating bullets. And so before he said that it was in the papers that they included, and I guess he's going for tweets or probably something said in the dark roast. I didn't look through everything, but I'm positive that the dark roast was submitted as evidence. But again, none of that. I've never actually seen anything that would even approach white supremacist doctrine. He said some mean things, like I won't lie. And I think even Richard C. Meyer, like he'll say it often on his videos that he has apologized for things and he wishes that he didn't say certain things. I don't know specifically what he's talking about. But a lot of people say things on Twitter. I don't know, but still, if none of it amounts to being a white supremacist, I've never seen anything that even broaches that. So it seems like a bit much. All right, cool. Let me put a little plug in here for my book, Downcast. I'm gonna copy the link because I always forget to do this. Downcast there's no politics in this. Well, I mean, there's politics in that their city's corrupt, but it has nothing to do with current politics. It's all like self-contained part of the story. And so if you're interested in backing this, I know a lot of you have seen it, and I've actually have a lot of backers, so it's been really great. But I will tell you the thing to do if you want all the art that's going to be included in this whole project. This print bundle right here has everything, including that Chaz Wagelmont print. And it's $35 and it's limited. They're going out. So if you're interested in backing that, I'm going to put the link in chat. And
out of curiosity,
we'll go from there.
Why is the city flying?
Well, it's for a few reasons, I guess. First and foremost, it's cool. It's a fun setting. What's that?
That's an amen, brother. That's the best reason for it to fly.
Yeah. I mean, like, and I'm not understating that at all. It really is about, to me, escapism, and so I wanted to create an interesting world that would cost a lot of money to make if it was a movie, and that's what the beautiful thing about comics is. You don't need that kind of a budget to have some awesome setting. So that's one thing. But then also the fact that the people have figured out how to harness gravity. That's actually really crucial to the story, because the main characters or protagonists actually steal that power, basically. So they can control gravity now. And if you imagine, if you're the one that can control gravity in a floating city, you're the most powerful person in that city. So I think it makes for a really fun story. So I hope that answers your question.
Have you played Bioshock Infinite?
I've seen it. I've not played it. I don't play a lot of video games anymore.
I can't believe you haven't seen it, but you're making a comic about a floating city.
Isn't Bioshock underwater?
No, this one takes place in the floating cities, and you can jump across platform to floating city to floating city.
Yeah. I found after I started writing it, I've actually started writing it 2 years ago. And then I found that there was this video game that had come out earlier called Gravity Rush. And it actually sounded similar. I didn't look into it much, but
it's completely different. I played it. That game, you have gravity manipulation powers, and you play as two girls.
Yeah.
But the entire objective of the story is to. I completely forgot, to be completely honest. It's been a while,
Hey,
but I'm pretty sure your story is completely different.
Yeah.
hey, Clint, it could be
Yeah.
worse. Instead of having broad concepts, some similarities, I think Elliot Fernandez or somebody like that has a book coming out called Doom Kickers.
Oh yeah.
Just
Him
one
and
letter off, literally one letter off. Yeah, yeah,
oh,
yeah,
that's right.
yeah. Doug Tenaple and Elliot, right? I'm
Yeah.
just like, that's awesome.
Yeah. There's no I mean, even finding a title is so hard to find. There are other things called Downcast, but there's no other comics called Downcast, at least that are searchable on Google. So that's nice. But yeah, I mean,
Not to get too in the weeds, but did you go through the process of trademarking or anything like that?
I didn't
No.
register a trademark. I have, you have copyright as soon as you document at all that you've created something, you have copyright. I haven't registered with the National Copyright Agency. That would help in a lawsuit, I guess. But yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
I think going through the process of doing a registered trademark might be worth your while. Because the idea is like you would then own the trademark to use Downcast as it relates to say comic publishing.
mhm.
You hear about the story about it's about a video game called Subverse. It's an H-type game, and there's this other company called Subverse that's like a news station. And because Subverse is a video game and it's basically a porn game, if you Google Subverse, you get all the wrong stuff. So they're suing that company because, trademark copyright issues.
Yeah,
Pretty concerning thing.
it happens. And if there's not, I mean, I think the big one is Apple. Apple Music, the Beatles. And then when Apple, the computer company, started getting into music, then that's when things crossed. But of course, the giant computer company is going to win no matter what. So
It's all about money at that point.
yeah. I'm going to look at the chat here real quick. Jason Black says, "Why is the city floating?" And he says, "Checkmate, sweet cast." Thank you. Papa says, "Sweetcast, Downcast doesn't run on orangemanbad.exe. What error are you in? You got to get into the cool kids club." Yeah. I had an idea. I think it'd be kind of fun to try. We should enter like a SJW anthology and make a book. Like, you've seen how people do this for academic journals. They'll write some journal that's totally overblown.
Yes, the outrage studies.
Yeah, we should do that and enter an anthology and be the biggest SJW book you can and see if we can get accepted into the anthology.
Hilarious.
Put
Yeah.
Border Cast in there. What that Border Town? That was
Yeah.
a pretty bad book.
Yeah. This has to be done. I've got to figure out a way to do it. So the art has to be good though, so that there's no excuses, Actually, if it's bad, that's even better if they accept it. Adam AF says, "I keep meaning to ask you, is there a correlation between Downcast and Sweetcast?" I get this question a lot. The name Downcast actually came from my subscribers. So if you have been watching the channel since, I think, November is when I asked people. I had people, they came up with names and then we voted on names. And I had 2 people mention Downcast. I did give people some guidelines. Like, I wanted it to feel like power and corruption and have to do with the floating city and things like that. And so, yeah, Downcast, 2 people came up with it. Then we voted on it, and that was the winner. So maybe it was influenced by people watching. They saw Sweetcast and thought Downcast. That's possible. But I did not do that on purpose. That's for sure. Yeah, I think that's it. Those are a lot of questions from chat.
Oh, here's my other question. Why is the dad in jail? What did he do?
That's spoiler territory, possibly.
No, man.
I'll tell you this: it's involuntary manslaughter.
No,
Hey,
that sounds pretty normal.
Clint, this is something I've been wondering for a while. I've been following your book for a while. The world building, how much do you really get into that?
Man, it's tough because you don't have a lot of pages to dedicate to that. So it's leaning heavily on the art for world building. However, there are some because the world is so important to the story, being like gravity control and things like that. I think that there's like a lot of it just runs through the plot. But it's not like, Lord of the Rings, where I'm going to be spending pages and pages talking about the world, because there's not enough pages for that in a comic this size. So
Have you thought about doing some short fiction to kind of go along with it?
no, I mean, yeah, I have no desire to write any other kind of fiction. I'm just doing comics, but
What
yeah.
was that other comic? I don't know how it turned out. I think it's called Skyward. I think it has the same gravity issue with the story.
Yeah.
What's that like underwater? I think.
It's
Did
under.
anyone read that?
Nope.
No, I guess it was bad then.
Adam
But
AF wants in on the anthology, he says. So sorry,
your
go ahead.
story is like aesthetic over narrative.
Here's
Aesthetic
the
is the narrative.
No. I mean, it's just a setting. I mean, it's don't read too much into it, but it's the setting, but gravity is important. It's basically like if you have all power, and in that kind of setting, if you control gravity, you have all the power.
Oh wait, here's like I got another question. Can
Sure.
you use gravity to kill people?
Sure. Yeah.
Does
You
it
could.
happen in the book?
Well, I mean, from the extent that people can get kicked off the platform and fall,
Oh,
they would
okay,
die.
yeah. I meant like
Yeah.
gravity manipulation.
There is definitely gravity manipulation for sure.
Now
It's
this opens a bucket of worms of questions I have right now.
yeah.
Uh, are
Go
there
ahead.
gravity boots?
No, there's
Oh.
just gravity. But if everyone could control gravity, then the power of gravity would not be, wielding the power of gravity would not be so special. It's like, have you seen Death Note?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, or read it. It's like if you're the guy that has that book that you can kill anybody just by writing their name, you have an immense amount of power. But if everybody had it, then who cares? Then it's just like a gun, I guess.
Then the world would be over.
Yeah, that's true. It probably wouldn't last very long. Yeah. So I don't know. Again, it's hard to. Yeah, I have 52 pages. So I think it's really focused on the plot. I am like Chuck Dixon. I'm a plot first writer. I have some great characters in there, and the gravity is definitely important to the story. So yeah.
I'm a character first writer. I
Character
put the
driven.
character driven for sure.
Mm-hmm. What's your writing process like?
Yeah, I've written visual novels. Have you seen those on Steam? For
No.
example, sometimes visual novels last like, I don't know, 20 hours, for example, in the sense that there's the default route of the story, if you never played one before, and then they branch out in the sense that, what if this happens? For example, there could be a situation where you have the opportunity to kill a character, but then there's another path for the story where it diverts where you don't kill that character. And it just keeps branching out and branching out and branching out. So there's like endings A through E or endings A through D. And writing that takes forever. And especially because I was working on it for foreign, and then I was working with the localization. For example, for Bloody Chronicles, it took a very long time for me to edit and give my input for the story, but also because it was foreign, there wasn't a lot of opportunity to change things. But going through the entire process of thinking of the story, preferred that I like it to have it outlined at least a little bit so I can have an idea of what's going to happen throughout the story. And as I edit it, I can make the necessary changes. Because sometimes when I'm editing the script, it's absolutely atrocious in the sense that some things just don't line up, some things don't make sense, some characters contradict each other, and sometimes they add like time and locations, and then you're like, this time doesn't correlate with this time. So there's a lot of strife and chaos when it's come to visual novel writing.
So when you're writing a character-driven story, this is always a problem I have is outlining. If I was going character-driven, you start with the character and what kind of decisions they would make, that kind of stuff. and then you have, I don't know, you like build it from there. So how do you outline if you're just any story? We'll say a comic, just because that's kind of what we're talking about. But how do you outline it when you're focusing on a character driven story?
Well, I outline it like it was a narrative, and I would say A, B, or C happens. For example, using Spider-Man as an example, we can have either Norman Osborn actually kills Spider-Man for some reason, and we have the opposite route where Norman Osborn doesn't. But in between A and B, there's kind of a midpoint. And as you write the story, I always leave myself available options. I in the sense that I can have the story go this way, but then I would have to do this, this, and this.
Yeah.
Or I could have the story go that way, and then I have can do this, this, and this.
See, that sounds like a
And it's
plot driven, because
yeah,
you're going by plot points rather
yeah,
than,
but
yeah.
when I outline the story, because it's character driven, as I'm writing it through that process and getting to the checkpoint, I would like to call it, or choke point in between what could potentially happen or I want to happen, I make a snap decision on how I'm writing the character at that time and what they're emotionally going through to decide what routes I'm initially going to take. Because due to the very fact that I write programs and do things like that, there's a lot of thinking process behind that. And
Yeah.
I think about what routes I can initially take the story if I pick what option. So there's also the problem of you getting cornered in the sense that you write yourself into a situation where either you're going to have to kill off the character or you're going to have to delete hundreds of pages. I've been in that scenario and it's not very fun, especially when you have to pick the latter. So it's a very long, tedious process of you thinking for a very long time of what you want to have done.
Mm. Yeah, I think our process is actually really similar. I don't know. I feel like some of it is semantics too. People usually say plot driven is terrible, and it was really cool when I had an interview with Chuck Dixon, because he's like, I'm a plot driven writer because it's more interesting. So I was like, oh, cool. I'm not the only one. But yeah,
Hey,
I think.
in my opinion, Clint, I think that was your best show.
Oh, thank you. That was so much fun. I'd love to have Chuck Dixon on again. But yeah, some of the fun that I have with writing is saying, hey, I want for Downcast, for example, what if somebody could control gravity in a floating city? They had all that power. What would that do to them? And then what decisions might they make? And then yeah, so like I lay out my outline and have plot points, but then you have to justify what would the thought process be from, I don't want to spoil anything, but from going from point A to point B, how do you justify that? Like what kind of things would happen to justify that in somebody's mind? What kind of conflict or relationship, what kind of stuff would have to happen in order for someone to make that decision? And then you kind of go back and write it there. So characters are definitely, obviously, like hugely important to the story. But yeah, I guess it's more like following an outline or just having a plot structure that sort of is the framework for it to rest on.
Hey,
But
I'd like to add something here about that. So, I mean, like you guys, I generate characters. The characters are important, but that plot is kind of key, especially in comics, because I think writing comics is a lot more like writing, let's say, a movie script than it is than writing short fiction. Clint, from prose fiction, it's kind of like you write it, and then really the revision process is really the key to prose fiction. So, but the idea is that the plot is very kind of scientific. Okay, 5 pages for my intro. I want to get out of the first act by page 10. I've got 20 pages for the second act, and then I've got the last maybe 15 pages for the third act, something like that. And then you break it down like that, and you look at your pacing, and then you look at your facing pages and things like that. It's definitely a more scientific process. But that being said, the thing that I really enjoyed, especially with the process of writing Door Kickers, was finding new things out about characters as you write that process, which reminds me of my prose background. And I think it's more interesting that way because, um, it's like I need something to happen in the story. So this character is the most obvious choice. In the case of Door Kickers, Jigna is a character who is, she's kind of perfunctory and in a way a cipher because she's the least, physically potent of all of the characters. So she's easily relatable to the audience. But the more I focus on her, the more I find things out about her that are just very interesting. And, so that character, and I add things back in the rewriting process. So,
Yeah.
The plot doesn't change, but the characters do, I think.
Yeah. Because you find ways to spice it up, I guess. And I guess so. Character driven. I think of Ernest Hemingway, The Sun Also Rises. Have you guys ever read that?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. I read that book and it was so fascinating, and I just wanted to keep reading it because of I mean just Ernest Hemingway's writing style. But I don't know, it was really interesting because what's pulling you along is just the character and their interactions. But then it's like, well, what happened? What happened in the book? And I like trying to explain it to my wife. I'm like, not a lot happened, really. I mean, there weren't like some big, huge plot points. Most of it was very like character interaction. And it was still like I actually really enjoyed it. But that I think is very extreme, where you have some very, very extreme plot driven stories that, are kind of lacking some things, I guess. So it's not that it's not about one or the other. There's still both. It's just what is driving the story.
Well, Hemingway was like the master of efficient prose. I mean, there is not a wasted word in there. So it's, he says a lot with very little.
Yeah. Oh yes, he does. Yeah. Kind of the other end of the spectrum, I guess, too, is Cormac McCarthy. He's probably my favorite writer. A lot of people don't like him, but I like him. I like him a lot. But he's, I don't know, maybe, but kind of farther the opposite. He doesn't waste punctuation. I'll say that.
No, he doesn't. Well, so my thing with him is, so my background in college, I had a minor in creative writing, and it was all about literary fiction. Literary fiction. If it wasn't literary fiction, it was shit. It was just that's all we do here, right? So, and it was all focused on short stories. So, they described Stephen King. Stephen King is a candy bar. He tastes great, but you don't want to eat him or you get fat, and it's better to not eat any of them. And I was like, all right. So, I kind of drank the Kool-Aid for a little while.
But what about comics then?
Right. That was, and well, in the 90s is when I was getting away from comics, but, I found like things like Sin City and things like that really kind of, it scratched both itches, But then I read, I came across The Road later, and I'm thinking it's going to be, a genre fiction story.
Yeah.
So I read it, and it is absolutely quintessential literary fiction, with just the way it's written. And I was like, God damn it. Get sucked back into this stuff.
Yeah, it's not what you're expecting. Man, he's have you ever read Blood Meridian? That's
I haven't read that one. No, I've read that. I read the Road, and what was the other one? The other one that made the movie.
No Country for Old Men.
That's the one.
I watched that yesterday.
My favorite one. I love that book.
It was a great book. I mean, he's a good writer. Is a good writer. It doesn't matter who, how they.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Blood Meridian's heavy though. That's that was one I could only read like 5 pages in a sitting, and it was like it took me forever to get through it. And I'd read a little bit, and I just have to stop and like think about it or like reread it. Because I'm like, I feel like there's supposed to be some other meaning, but like it just, how sometimes it's written and you're like, what am I missing? And I got through the whole thing, and I won't spoil how it ends, I guess. But the ending, it really makes it like, oh, this is all symbol. I don't know, like you just missed something. So I don't know. It was heavy, super violent though, like really violent.
Yeah, I mean, so the thing is that when you're reading genre fiction, because a lot of his stories kind of fit genre fiction, but they're written with that really sparse kind of, I hate to say it, but artsy kind of
Yeah.
style, and it's jarring because he's able to get the point across in about a quarter of the words that none of his books are thick.
No.
And I think honestly, I think that when it comes to prose fiction, a great writer doesn't need many words.
And that's another thing is his is just the mechanics of writing. I said this before. I hate with prose fiction, and I published 2 novels, and just having to do he said, she said, those kinds of things bother me so much.
But the thing I took from one of the big things I took when it came to dialogue, writing dialogue, and this has helped with it actually helped transitioning to screenplay because screenwriting is not a literary form of art, right? It's very much a functional writing, almost technical writing. And in literary fiction, it's kind of like establish the voices, establish the points of views, and then you're able to then just allow the dialogue to occur. And so you don't need a lot of, God damn it, I wish you would leave me alone, he said, because, in regular fiction, people just don't sound a whole lot different. But in that literary fiction, if you're doing it right, I mean, you can tell from, just maybe 1 or 2 lines of dialogue who that person is because of their cadence and their, the way they speak. Or have you read Train Spotting or any of Irving Welsh's stuff?
Nope.
I haven't.
Oh, dude, that stuff is really good.
Is Train Spotting the one to get?
Oh man, Train Spotting is definitely the one to get, especially if you've seen the book. If you've seen the movie, you understand the story, and it makes the translation into the book easier. Now, I will caution you. You know how when you read Shakespeare, you know how you got to read it for about 3 or 4 pages before your brain makes the transition to that kind of language, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing. He writes in colloquial Scottish, and he so in Scotland, you don't say "let's get out of here." You say "let's go here," and he spells it Oothier. So you got to read it, and you just got to kind of hear it in your head, and it takes a while to maybe 5 or 6 pages of kind of reading and rereading, and then all of a sudden it starts to click, and then you just hear it, and it works.
Yeah, I hate that, the misspelling. I know, like it's kind of going out of fashion from a lot of like writing conferences and stuff, but it does, it still gets used.
Well, the 90s, I think, was kind of the high water point for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, J.K. Rowling does it a lot, and I don't know. I hate it. Adam AF says, OMG, me too. I hate too much he said, she said. Nasser gave me all kinds of crap about it. Yeah, I don't like it. So you might like Cormac McCarthy then. There's none of that. There's not even quotation marks. I don't think he uses periods. There's no punctuation.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's just
narration.
Writing. But the thing is, you can tell who's talking, and like it just really shines like how good of a writer he is when he writes dialogue, because you know who's talking. You can totally follow it. So yeah, I like it, and that's what I love about comics is you don't need all the little mechanics about writing. It's gone now. It's beautiful art. You don't have to say like he quipped. You can actually have a image of something that's showing you. It's the ultimate show don't tell.
I actually made a video game that doesn't have any words, that just tells a complete story. It's pretty difficult to convey what you want through pictures, but I got it done.
Yeah, that's really cool. So Scott, you started in prose and then you moved to
yeah. Short
comics.
fiction. Yeah.
And it was the same with you, Ari. You moved. Oh no, you went from, what was the first kind of writing you started with?
Video games. Yeah.
That's an interesting path. I mean, it makes sense. Like I can see that. You know, it again, like storytelling is storytelling. You just there's mechanics are different, but yeah, I don't know. I
I
guess I
would
don't think.
imagine video games is very. I mean, based on how he was describing it earlier, video games is like writing a choose your own adventure kind of story.
Mm,
It's
yeah,
pretty big.
Branching plots, right?
Yeah.
yeah. I've actually done quite a few murder mystery party games. Writing those, and that's actually a lot of fun because it's kind of similar. Like
You should do a downcast version of a murder mystery party game.
I could, yeah. I feel like the comic needs to come out. I am going to be doing some writing. I've been putting it off because of Downcast, but I'm going to be doing some writing for a like a app game. I've got some friends that started actually Chaz Wagamont, the guy that did the print for me for Downcast. His company is going to be doing an app game where it's like a story game, and yeah, they asked me to write something for it, and I was like, I will. Let me finish this.
Yeah.
So
Have you written the entire book already?
yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
How
I've
many
got
pages is it?
well, so script wise, it's 52 pages. I've got to again. This is one of those things where comics is different, but having Nacho do all the thumbnails, things could change. I mean, it's definitely not going to be shorter than 52 pages. I'll say that, but we're gonna try and stick to 52. But yeah, it'll most certainly change just because of the how it works working with an artist. So
You see, in game design, we have something called GDD, which stands for Game Design Document. And it's this big book that's either between 1 and 300 pages. So once you begin the process of actually making the game, everything's either set in stone or you have a very clear idea of what you're making. So I guess the reason why I'm able to process things a lot is because there's a lot of writing behind it and a lot of pre-production work that's behind the scenes.
mhm. Yeah, it's important. I don't know. How do you work with your artist? Do you write full script for your comic then, or
Yeah,
you?
full
Yeah.
scripts.
And does your artist like adhere to exactly what's going on, or it's just different with every artist I know that you work with, but
Uh, I let him be imaginative in the sense that I can just say, this is what happens. And if it needs an additional page or extra space, just take whatever time you need. But I would tell him if this page is a portrait, this page is a landscape. And I would kind of write it like a book and describe what was happening on page.
yeah,
You
oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. It's
Well,
your stream.
well, I was just gonna say I used to do I used to write out like close up, close up shot of Joanne. She's angry and like give her like all this backup and stuff.
Like a little
Um,
stage direction.
yeah, I don't do that anymore because like allowing the artist to do that, I don't know. He like just in this example, every time every time I hire an artist, they come up with ideas and perspectives I hadn't thought of that work with the storytelling. And so yeah, to me, I'm like, if that gets them more involved and they feel like they're part of the creative process, then definitely let them do that. So now I just like I will say emotional words like angry, upset, confused, things like that, so that there's a mood and a tone. But as far as like camera direction, things like that, I don't. But I do write all of the dialogue because for me that's important, so I know how the pacing goes.
All the dialogue is important.
Yeah.
Well, no, so like I still do like and I started writing I started writing comic scripts back in the mid 90s when like the dominant style for people was the Dark Horse full script, and in that they had a lot of kind of like MCU, which is medium close up, POV, worm's eye view. I mean, these are like camera kind of direction, stage direction type things. But the thing I've learned is that I think it's good for the artist to know what I've got in my head when I describe a scene,
Mhm.
but they also need to know that if they can think of a cooler way to depict, and to understand my intent, and then if they can think of a cooler way to do it, then that's just a matter of, especially in this day and age, of just a quick email or a Facebook Messenger. Hey, you said you wanted a worm's eye view of this on this panel. I think it'd be better if we do it from top down. Oh, okay, that sounds cool. Do it. Do the thumbnail of it, and let's see where it goes.
Mm.
The hardest thing I personally struggle with writing is finding the beginning. The beginning, and
Yeah.
typically it's where the plot takes place. Then you have the question: if you have multiple characters, which character's perspective are you going to start from? I've written so many scripts, and some of them span 500, maybe 300 pages, and I just didn't like how it began, so I just started over. And I went back on one of the when I was going to work for, or I kind of worked on an MMO game where basically you have a bunch of lore and stuff. I went back, I wrote an entire script, I got through half of it. Then I went all the way back to the beginning to rewrite the beginning because I really didn't like how the beginning was. And I began to write notes and add little documentations of, well, I didn't like how this started out, so I just write the story of how it initially played out, then just filled out the blinks out originally, or the new way it was supposed to go.
I know the tendency is to write backstory first, and like I had a really great she was in a writing group with me, but she was much more experienced than me, so I call her my mentor, I guess. But she would always tell me, and I agree with you, beginnings are hard. For me, they're the most difficult thing. But she'd always say, like, you're starting too soon. This is backstory. You need to start when the story starts.
And you don't want to drop like heavy exposition.
No,
you just want to have to give a general idea of what's going on. For example, the story I rewrote, originally I just dropped this exposition about how these gods existed in the world, and I said, scratch that. The story starts in this dungeon, everyone's dying, and you're playing as that surviving character with XYZ amount of party members.
Yeah.
I totally agree that with what you said about you got to find the right place to start, but I've never had that problem. I mean, maybe I have a better sense of how to start a story, where the action begins versus the information begins.
Yeah.
For me, it is always the third act. The third act is always the thing that I've got to. It's like I know what the end needs to be. Like, so the last 10 pages, right? I know what the last page and what needs to happen on the last page, but getting there is just it's tough.
Yeah. It's crazy. They have I don't know, everybody has different. I'm curious in chat how many writers we have, and if you what do you struggle with, beginning, middle, or end? Write that in the chat, beginning, middle, or end. I'm just curious. Yeah, I've heard people that really struggle with endings. And then I do also, it's difficult to connect. Like, I know how it's going to end, and I know that this is happening, at the beginning of the third act, and how do you connect those? You know what I mean? In a timely way, things like that. Right now I see an end is the hardest one. Beginning. Yeah, I think it's, would not surprise me if it's 50-50. 50. 30.
That's a cool title. Yeah, it's hard. A title is hard.
Oh yeah.
When I began writing Wicked, believe it or not, I had like 4 different beginnings. In the first beginning, originally I was going to start in the fantasy universe because I don't think I explained it. I have dual plots going around in the sense that, there's a story that takes place in our reality, but simultaneously while that story is going on, we're also learning about the fantasy world, and we're going to see how it died and how it merged to our reality. So in the first beginning I wrote about the character in the fantasy world and how she basically had to kill all these people because there were breeding monsters and something went awry. But then I had to start over again when I had this other character entering the fantasy world, and basically a light shot up into the sky and it knocked down an airplane. Then I was like, nope, that's bad. Then I started over again, and I started with the resurrection again. But this would also simultaneously start another plot line. There were so many ideas I had, and it was so hard to basically say, this acts all this stuff out, and let's just start here. And this would be the foundation that will set this plot in motion, and the next issue will set this plot in motion, and that plot in issue. Because the problem that I struggle with is kind of pacing due to the very fact that I worked on visual novels and those last for about 15 hours or so. There's a lot of padding out of the story because you can imagine if you're writing for that long, you pad out the story. So there's a sense of time that passes when I'm writing versus like if you're reading a Peter Tomasi comic, eventually you can write Batman like, well, Batman goes in, he does a detective thing, then you get a time skip when he's over here because you know he's Batman, so he did that thing. But because I'm not writing Batman and my character isn't Batman or if anything like that, you have to explain what happens in the middle in between that area.
Yeah,
So
it's
I
a
struggle
challenge.
with that.
How long is Wicked? How many pages long?
Yeah.
The pilot is about 36 pages,
Yeah,
but the
it,
main series, I
So-
plan for it to go for like 100 plus issues.
yeah, it's a challenge, man. I mean, you want to tell. I mean, for me, it's like I have all these plans. Like, I'd love to do this big epic thing for Downcast, but at the same time, it's like you gotta. It's hard. Like, you have to have a satisfying story in those. You know, I've 52 pages. It's hard. It's really, especially going from writing, 60,000 word novels.
Yeah. So like just to workshop that idea that you just told us about, The Hidden, right? That's the name of the book,
Which
right?
one?
Wicked. Oh,
Yeah, well, Wicked. That's what it is. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Just so like what you just gave us is such an epic idea, and it's great. It's awesome. Like there's so much. I would just because it really reminds me of was it Shadowrun, right? I don't know
Yeah.
the yeah. So it
Shadowrun's
reminds
awesome.
it reminds me of that, right? So there's so much you can do with that. The problem is exactly what you have 36 pages to tell your story. You have to introduce characters, you have to make them fulfilling, you have to give them something to do, you have to have an increase of tension, and you have to have some sort of meaningful resolution at the end. I mean, ideally, right? You want a self-contained story because you never know if you're going to be able to make another one.
Yeah, and that's like the hardest thing ever. I really wanted to start it from issue one, but my game design mind says, well, if I don't get past issue one, I'm gonna want to write the rest. So don't do it, just do a pilot. But it's really hard. I mean, starting the actual first story arc was a real struggle. And I had to settle on if I were to actually start the story, how is this going to go? And I was talking to Bill, who writes Punchline, and he said we could do a crossover. And when I was setting up basically the intricacies of this world, as you can see, mine's more of the aesthetic being the narrative. The aesthetic is the driving force of the plot at this particular time, starting from issue one, because basically you have all these characters coming back from the dead that's from another universe in our universe. And of course, they're bringing back diseases, plagues, monsters, and all these other supernatural things that existed over here, over there. So I had to think, how would the world react to that? So then I thought to myself, I'm going to start the story where this is all normalized. And I was like, no, I should just start from the beginning. So when Wicked actually starts as a story, we're getting into the first 100 days of basically, I just call it the cataclysm between universes. And basically, in the start of the story, at least maybe 10 to 15 million people are dead. It's not like people from the fantasy world just going berserk and killing people. It's diseases, it's a multitude of factors. And as I'm writing that story, which I call the story arc Extinction is the Rule, I'm padding this story out from basically elemental fire creatures that are just started from random fires, just killing people, dragons flying in the sky and knocking out airplanes, and people just dying from normal things that wouldn't exist in the fantasy world. So when I began writing that story arc, I started melding things together. And I was like, I can create this into a cohesive narrative. And I'm trying to be very careful here, not spoiling what initially happens.
yeah.
It-
Well, and it's hard to
I really want to talk about it, but if I do, I'll
Yeah.
just annihilate the entire story and just say,
Yeah, but
what happened?
everything I'm hearing from you is literally exposition and backdrop. I haven't heard anything that sounds like plot or main character. You know what I mean?
So when I wrote the story, I initially took that perspective of who's the main character of the story, who will be the main focal point of the story. And I pretty much came to a consensus that I wanted to make a story that was about a multitude of people, due to the very fact that this is an entire Earth type thing that eventually, throughout character arc to character arc, will switch locations. For example, the first story arc takes place in America, so we have our protagonist that lives in America. Then you have a protagonist that lives in Europe. So there's a protagonist and a dual, dual agonist.
So
And
so
the
what about this first issue, the one that's on Indiegogo right now?
first
What's like the log line, like the one sentence?
the first story issue, or the pilot, is about a character named Gwendolyn. And when she was teleported to our reality, she basically has the memory of basically her children dying, and is her searching for the assassin that killed them. But if I wrote issue one and you read the pilot, she doesn't know that by the time that issue one initially started. So
Yeah,
we're basically seeing the outset of something that occurs in the future.
this is for me, I mean for every writer, this is such a challenging, because writing and building a story is one kind of art, and then on the other hand, having like the pitch or the log line kind of thing is a different art. I still think it's an art, but it's yeah, I had such a hard time with it. I will admit, like I had a lot of help from people that have done it before.
I was
um
talking to Bill, who writes Punchline again, and I asked him a bunch of questions because, I'm used to writing video games and story novels, of how would I initially tell what I want to tell, but also keep it very engaging. Because, like I said, books, visual novels, video games, I got time to pad everything out. In the sense of a video game, you have the main quest, you also
yeah,
got a subset of quests. So if I can't fit into the main quest, I'll put it in a sub quest. In a
yeah.
comic book always has to be main quest. Don't write filler. So when I
I
was talking,
I really feel like you were telling me about your 1,000-page novel.
it kind of is a thousand stage
Yeah.
novel.
I mean,
But when
I'm
I
going
was
to read it, to be honest with you.
then again, when I was writing it again, I asked Bill why was Jesse's superhero name called Vermersa, and he told me because it sounded cool. Then I asked why the male character's name, or she has a superhero name, and he told me he wouldn't tell me. But then I thought about my character again for the first issue of Wicked, if I ever got that far. What would I call him? And then I thought about the foundations of his character, and this goes back to what you were talking about, how you write character-driven story. When I created, let's just call this character Sunny, due to the very fact that I don't want to spoil it if I do write it. Ultimately, Sunny's superhero's name is Ultimate. And the reason why I called him Ultimate is due to the very fact that in his backstory, his mom drove a car that had the license plate Ultimate. Originally, his name was Godspeed. And I thought that was, hey, that was cool. And people would remember that. But I changed it due to the very fact that there's a very emotional connection between the character and what he's called. And that also links to his backstory, which you would learn in issue one. With all that linked together, that would create something more memorable than just saying, well, this is a character with a cool sounding name, therefore I'm going to remember it.
Yeah, so so I'm looking at log lines here. I'm going to show you mine. I find this topic so interesting, and essentially I have two. I have a really even shorter one. This is like a one sentence line that tells you the gist of the story, and then I've got a 2 sentence log line that's a little bit more robust. But something I found challenging, you guys let me know what you think, but I think it's important to have your whatever the emotional hook is for the story, like to be in there, because that's what drives the story forward, I guess. um and I'm sure this could be, again, it's an art, it could be done so many different ways. But let me run this one past you guys. So Joanne and her brother Jax are on the run from a corrupt government when the power to control gravity falls into their hands. That's 1 sentence. With their father held captive and sentenced to death, they can use this legendary and incredibly powerful weapon to save him before it's too late. Or can they? So not they can. Can they? My bad, I slaughtered that. That's like one way. And then this is like the same story. Blue collar teens use the power of gravity to fight against a corrupt city for their father's life.
There's
Even
also
more.
cultists.
What's that?
There's also cultists.
There are cultists, yes. Yeah, and that's the hard thing is you can't even in the comic, man, it's hard because you want to answer. Like I know people ask all these questions and they want to know, well, what about this? What about that? But you have, in my case, 52 pages, and it's hard. You can't. And even in Star Wars, you remember like the big thing with the Midi-chlorians, you know, a lot of people, I don't know how you guys stand on that issue, but a lot of people are really upset about that. But it grew out of, well, how does the Force work? We got to know how it works.
I don't know. It's time travel now, and it's all
Yeah.
this crazy. It used to be pushes and electricity. It was very simple back then.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, that's it's hard because Jim Cox says emotion ain't got any time for that. Yeah. Thing is, if you do a log line and try to have like just be a plot, like no emotional or character like emotion happening, it's not gonna sound nearly as interesting.
I think for my synopsis, thinking it off the top of my head, I put the world's become a paranormal pressure cooker, and it's basically became this interdimensional melee storm, and people are coming back from the dead, and this femme fatale resurrects from the dead in search of the assassin that killed her children. I think I wrote that for the overview. I don't remember because I'm not looking at it currently at this time.
So the main character is searching for somebody that killed their children. Is that
Yes.
okay? So that's what emotion is driving that? Is it revenge?
Yes, revenge.
Revenge, yeah. So that's the emotional hook is the revenge.
But there's also two other characters in there as well that are kind of with her.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's hard. I mean,
But if they're not A characters, then you know they are just there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
do.
it's not their arc. It's hit. You know, their arc
What
maybe it may be just this your first story just maybe set up for their arc, but it's not their arc. You know what I mean? That's I mean,
yeah.
because so for me, like I've got a team of 6 people in the door kicker story that I'm going to be doing, and that's tough because even 6 characters in one book, you don't get to them all. You get little nuggets and stuff, but they don't all have an emotional arc. Only maybe 1 or 2 of them does.
You gotta support the main one. Maybe you can have one subplot. I don't know, like depending on how many pages you have. It's hard. I that's a challenge to write a team book. I've
Well,
got the two main characters, but even then, really one is the main character, the other is a supporting character, at least for this issue.
well, like so the free story that I give away, it's a 2-person story. It's Bill's story and Jigna's story, and in 10 pages I was able to kind of get across both of their points of view. Now it wasn't an emotional transformation or anything like that, but still, the entire story was written in almost exposition. So
I read your 10-page story. My wife did too, and it's good. That's a challenge. If you're gonna write comics, if you can write even like an 8-page story, 8-page, 10-page story, and make it a compelling story, then yeah, you can do 22 pages. The longer it gets, it's actually a little bit easier. Those short ones, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll be honest with you. Like the original plot to that story was essentially a 20-page plot. Where there's stuff that happened in the beginning, and then there's the story that you saw right as the second half. But what I realized is once I got to know the characters better, because they were really kind of cardboard cutouts at first. Once I got to know those 2 characters better, everything was better when it was kind of bookending the story between the 2 of them. And so it just worked out, and I was able to really kind of tighten the story up with that. But.
Well, and I don't want to ruin it. It's free, so it's just you join your mailing list, right, and you get it.
Adam AF just dropped a link. Yeah,
he's got it. There you go. Yeah, so I mean, read it. Like I don't want to spoil it for people, but you got a problem, right? And that's story. Like you're not like the world building. I don't know. Okay, if I'm to say like what your book is, it's kind of like maybe like a military. I'm gonna say Saving Private Ryan, but no, it has to be like a modern military movie meets like Hellboy.
Yeah, I always say Zero Dark 30 meets Lovecraft.
Okay, yeah, that's great because you have like the like the I can't even think, the supernatural kind of element in there, which is really cool. But then it's like you don't go and explain. You only have 10 pages. You don't explain all that. Like you show them it. You know what I mean? When there's an experience like that's, you show them, and it actually doesn't take that much time. But it is hard to decide what's the best way I can show somebody that in this world, like the supernatural is real. You know. So yeah, I think you did a really great job of it. But that's one of the challenges with comics.
Well, and that's what differentiates Bill from the rest of his team is he is able to continue to function, efficiently, even though this thing has appeared in front of him.
Yeah, I'm laughing at the chat. Man, if I hear Lovecraft one more time.
I know,
Lovecraft.
right? You know what's so funny is that like Lovecraft was not that big of a thing
No.
years ago.
No.
When I created this story, it was like, I thought I was the only person in the world that liked Lovecraft. But man, now it is tentacles and freaking disassociated eyeballs everywhere.
Tentacles.
Cthulhu is taken over. Have you guys looked at like games, Kickstarter board games? Every other one is Cthulhu.
Hey, Clint, have you ever read much Lovecraft?
No, I haven't. Yeah, that's
it's not an easy read.
Yeah, it's old. I mean, it's
old, and even his style from at the time. So a great one to kind of contrast him with is Robert Howard, the Conan writer. So read some Conan first, because that gives you an idea of what the kind of the dominant style was back then. Then read some Lovecraft. And Lovecraft are these giant blocks. Actually, you know what? Look at this. I just so happen, because I'm getting back into reading. It's nothing. This is it. It's giant blocks of text.
Yeah.
There's no dialogue at all. It's all like, third person or first person narrator. And it's this really dense prose, and the language is old, and then he throws in all these random like racist remarks, and it's just like, what the hell's going on?
I really feel like maybe someone's gonna get mad about this. People like the idea of Lovecraft more than they like Lovecraft.
Oh, his concepts are golden. They're unbelievable. I mean, and it's like, but the thing is they're so hard to understand that it's really hard to show on the screen. Like The Thing did a really good job of love the idea of the whole Cronenberg kind of like, oh my God, what is it? You can't like define its form,
It's so horrible. I can't define it.
Let's see. There's another movie. I actually saw this movie recently. It's called The Void. It's on Netflix.
Let me see.
I recommend it. It's totally worth watching, and it does a pretty good job too.
I think I've
an overrated movie. What's that called? Man, it was with the bird thing. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, that was a terrible movie from my point of view.
So I didn't think it was terrible, but I thought it was a good job of a Lovecraftian kind of threat, because you could never see it, because if you saw it, it would drive you insane, and the only people that could see it were the people who are already insane.
I'm gonna start the what's his name? I can't think of the guy that wrote I Am Legend, the book.
I think that was a comic first.
No, it was it's a book, because the Omega Man was what was based on that. The Charlton Heston.
Yeah. The book though, like that book, I read it before the movie.
Like vampires.
Yeah, they're Matheson. Thank you, Fizfop. Matheson. I can't remember his first name, but that book's great. And he has a lot of short stories and stuff. So I want to bring up, like, I'll be like, this is a Mathesonian I don't know if any of it's actually open, public domain or not. But Mathesonian, we're gonna bring that one back because he's got a lot of great.
I will say for a fiction fan on a budget, Lovecraft, you can't beat it because every one of his stories are free.
There you go. Yeah.
You can download it. You can get every one of them for free off the internet. Just put whatever story, or just put Lovecraft and PDF, and there's a site that pops up, and it's got every one of the stories.
I'm looking at a tweet right now that says, some company is accepting film scripts. So they got a film script of Downcast. Get it to this guy over here.
Oh man. Yeah, we'll get through the comic first, I guess. I don't know. We'll see what happens next. Richard Matheson. Thank you, Adam EF.
Oh, by the way, we were talking about log lines, right? I am actually pretty proud of my log line for Door Kickers because I think it really hits the story, right? So this is not the series concept, like elevator pitch. This is the synopsis, like the 75 words or less log line for the actual comic that I'm pitching. So it's Door Kicker's Panzer Demon finds the Wildfire team investigating cultist activity in Kiev, Ukraine, with the CIA and Ukrainian intelligence. The story begins with a successful raid on a cultist group where the team recovers actionable intel that leads to one of the most terrifying and malevolent threats ever. Only the experience and resourcefulness of these apex warriors can bring them through this nightmarish fight. So it kind of, it's 75 words or less.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the longer pitch. Yeah. I like that.
There is a shorter one, but it doesn't talk about it. It's more of the concept than the story.
It's hard when you have to boil it down to one sentence. It's like, but then the nice thing is, this for me, I think was key with Downcast is realizing that you're not pitching it to a publisher. You're pitching it. You're pitching it to the readers. So they actually don't like the same format of logline. They want it more like a movie. Like you pitch them a movie. I think that was the most helpful for me is looking at how films are pitched, because it's just what's exciting about this, what makes it interesting. Boil it down. It's still hard, man. It's really hard.
Well, I think you have to have several layers of pitch, right? You literally have to have my book Door Kickers is literally Zero Dark 30 meets Lovecraft, right? And then you've got to have like the 2 to 3 sentence pitch that gets you like, well, that sounds interesting. What's it about? Oh, well, it's about blah 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 blah. Oh, well, so what do they do? And then that's where you talk about the actual story. And then you know what I mean? It's so you have to be able to kind of go down that rabbit hole, in Comicsgate. And the other thing too, we're going back to communications, but we're talking about communicating directly to the audience, right? This is not me selling a book through Diamond to local comic shop. This is like me selling it to the people who are going to pull the trigger on purchasing it. So, you've got to build up that trust, and you've got to build up the knowledge and understanding of what the concept's all about.
Yeah. You got to answer the right questions preemptively and not get caught up on the wrong questions, because people will still ask you the wrong questions.
What are some wrong questions?
Well, I mean, if they, what, I don't know. I mean, like for my story, how does the plumbing work?
Yeah, that's a good question. How does the plumbing work?
But do you want me to take a page of 52 pages and tell you about the plumbing? Do you know what I mean?
Put it in the back.
Yeah, it's actually, I mean, it's in the artwork. You can actually see the plumbing, but I mean, that's beside the point. But like, there's all sorts of, again, how does the force work?
It works, does whatever the screenwriter says it does. That's how it works.
But I mean, you just got to get people to suspend disbelief, and to be down with it. But explaining like midichlorians and blood tests and all that kind of stuff. It kind of it undermines what the story is trying to do. Should be trying to do.
In The Last Jedi, my suspension was blown in the first 5 minutes when she survived the rocket launcher attack and everyone else died but her. What was her character? I don't want to say it's Padme. It probably was.
I'll never get over Princess Leia getting sucked into the vacuum of space.
That one.
And then floating right back.
I knew that's when it was going to be a bad movie.
You know what's sad about that is, a lot of people criticize that movie because it introduced all these new things about the Force that we've never seen. I didn't have a problem with that. The problem I had with that is that they so. For instance, we all knew that Leia is she's Force sensitive, right? But she did it more intuitively in the books, and that made sense. But this whole a new Jedi power that we've never seen before, and it's Leia that shows us. I don't buy that, man. I mean, that's just bad storytelling. And forget about
this power allows you to breathe in the vacuum of space and survive. I don't know, a freaking nuclear bomb.
Yeah, I mean, if you're they've set the rules already. Especially Star Wars is already epic. It's this big thing. You set the rules, and then all of a sudden, to undermine those rules, it just changes it. It changes everything.
Yeah, if it had been Luke that they did that to, we would have bought it hook, line, and sinker. It's like, because that's Luke Skywalker, or that's Darth Vader or somebody like that. But with Leia, it's just like it breaks. It's beyond credulity.
Well, and then what did it accomplish? That's the other thing is I'm trying to think like what storytelling reason did they have her? They could have got her sucked out into the vacuum of space and then die, and that actually because I forget the guy's name. Her son was the one that was going to shoot her, and then he decided not to. That's like a character building moment. Kylo Ren, he did not pull the trigger. That says something. They're showing us something. That's great. And then she gets shot anyway. She gets sucked out into the vacuum of space, and then she goes back in. You know what I mean? Like, why? It didn't make any sense for moving the plot forward.
Like I said, if it was Luke, we would have bought it hook, line, sinker. But it wasn't Luke; it was Leia, and they just shouldn't have done that. And I'll be honest with you, even worse than that is what they did they killed Akbar, and then they gave Holdo essentially Akbar's job and took away his big emotional, If they had just think about it, if they had just eliminated the role of Holdo completely, let Akbar survive, he just wasn't on the bridge when it got blown out, and then allow Akbar be the one that it's a trap, and then he. That would have that would have gotten you so many love points from the fans.
Oh, I've gotta get this super chat. This is my second ever super chat, so thank you so much, Gonzo the Great. $4.99. Thank you. I really appreciate that. It says excited for Downcast, but feels like we need one more reason to reinvest in this campaign, similar to Doug TS Sketchbook. Maybe your thoughts. I've been talking to Crypto Fashion, the guy over at Crypto Fashion, and the wheels are turning really slowly for t-shirts. What else? Well, so a sketchbook. That's just another. I mean, I could go to the printer and ask about it. What I don't want to do is undermine people that have already backed. You know what I mean? Like I don't. So it would have to be something like in addition to, I guess, that's not going to undermine something that you've already gotten. So that's my only worry. So, but I am definitely open to suggestions. Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think?
One of my YouTube channels got terminated because apparently people over in Japan don't like YouTube, so they got the anime YouTubers canceled. This gave them a bunch of copyright strikes just for showing a picture. It's not fun.
On the topic of what you could do, I mean, like I love the idea of a sketchbook, right? I also like the idea. So with Earthbound, let me just tell you my stupid, this isn't even a boomer moment. This is just a lack of paying attention. So like I bought the sketchbook tier because I thought, wow, that's a good deal. It's a sketchbook of the book, right? But no, it was the addition of the sketchbook to the book, right? Which, that's kind of, you should never, it's like everything should always be like an addition to, versus like, so like you got tier one, and then tier two is tier one plus this thing, and then tier three is, you know what I mean? Unless you have a specific, like a retail tier, which is separate from the earlier tiers. If your book is not artist driven, it's writer driven. But that doesn't mean that you couldn't do some sort of a behind the scenes kind of book where you do all the character sketches. You could even commission a couple, I'm sure there's some concept sketches because your world is very, very interesting.
I've got sketches that I did years ago, but I feel like they're not great. I'll be honest. Like
here's the thing, Clint. I mean, you would have to commit to this, right? So this is not free money. Would be like money that you earn, right? And so maybe you need to put some of your kind of your world building into that book. And so that would cause you to probably, well, I don't know. I mean, if you're anything like me, you've probably already written a bunch of background stuff that you'll never use in a story. It's just there for, the administrative, the way the city is built is this is the administrative structure of the city and blah blah blah. And these are,
So here's the thing. Let me throw this out there. And like, if you're a backer and you've backed like at any level, okay, and you've got shipping, maybe you bought the print package, so you've got one of each cover, and then you've got the print. And then if I say, hey, I've got this, I don't know, little booklet that has some writing stuff in it and some sketches or something like that.
Yeah, like an ash can.
Yeah. So now my problem is then if I make a tier, I would have to make just an ash can tier. If I make a tier that has all the other stuff plus ash can, if you're a backer, you're going to be like, what? Like, I just backed at this level. Now I'm going to cancel my order to order the new one. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's like, or you're going to have to pay shipping, double shipping. You
gotta remember, if you add just let's say you put essentially what is like a floppy comic, right? A floppy.
Yeah.
If it's something like that, right? That gives you background on the world. It gives you maybe background, like stuff that's happened before the plot of the story. And then he also gives you, 15 to 20 pages of sketches and stuff like that. First of all, if you build it in as a separate tier, that's like an add-on tier, that would just go right in the same package. So I don't know that you would have any additional shipping charges.
Well, they don't, as far as I know, the way that Indiegogo works, you can't, there's not like an add-on thing. Like you get your tier and then that's like how the order is made. So for me to make a separate tier, like let's say I made an ash can, that's totally different thing. If I made an ash can on its own tier, I have to put shipping on that because it's still going to cost money if somebody just goes and buys the ash can alone. If somebody, like if I had made a tier that included an ash can already and you bought it all together, that'd be one thing. But like I haven't. It would just be a separate. Do you understand what I'm saying?
So here's
like a shopping cart where you add it to your order. That's not how it works.
I mean, I don't know how secret the secret tier is, but I mean, essentially the secret tier is very similar to your $35 tier. So, and you've got probably a good 25% of your backers probably did the secret tier, right? That would be my off the
there's 95, so no, not even close to 25%. 95 people out of my 550.
Okay, so 20%.
Yeah.
Yeah, so call it 20%. So like all those people would probably want that product. And then in addition to that, a good number of your $35 tier people would probably want it too. So maybe what you've got to do is you've essentially got to create two tiers. You've got to create maybe like a $45 tier, which is the $35 tier plus the ash can. And in order to get that, they've got to cancel the $35 order and go for the 45.
That will cost me so much money. I verified this with Indiegogo. Every time someone returns an order, I still get charged credit card processing fees.
Oh, I see. And you
Really?
This is a deal break. Yeah, this is why, and I don't want to make.
could you then just do like a, hey, it's a $9 add-on tier and it's $1 of shipping?
Yeah, so this is the thing is if you could associate it with your past order, that might be viable. I don't. There's not a function for it to do that. It's not like a good. It's not like a shopping cart or anything. It's like a totally separate transaction. So matching it up with each order, like this, seriously, this would break the campaign. And that's like, I want to give people, that's why I thought t-shirts could make sense because it's separate and it's shipping from a different facility.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so I don't want to undermine anybody that's already backed. I don't want to make you I don't want to make you refund it and then reback at a different level. That's bad. But I mean, stretch goals I can add. That's something. But yeah, you can see where this is all complicated. If I had known ahead of time, that's why I included the print and the variant cover. It gives people different things to invest in. But if I have something new for people to invest in that's separate, it has to be something that's separate because I don't want to undermine the people that have already backed. That's really important. So Dynamo says we want to help you crush Nasser. Yeah, I think we can do that. So I don't know, we can get t-shirts because that makes I can justify charging shipping for a t-shirt because it's shipping from a different facility. You know, that totally makes sense, and it's also going to be different dimensions and things like that. So I could add it and it wouldn't be included with the book. I could have an ash can that's separate, but you're paying shipping basically is how it would work.
And with the t-shirt, you'd have to like do something like no foreign shipping or something like that. I mean, because the shipping overseas for the t-shirt would be crazy.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's intense, man. Yeah, Gonzo the Great, he says, we've got it all, but your campaign is relatively cheap. Yeah, that's the thing. With the number of backers I have, so you'll notice the guys that really have the astronomical numbers, it's because their lowest tier is $25.
I like to have astronomical numbers.
Yeah, but if you can give somebody enough value for $25 for the lowest price point, then you're gonna have much bigger numbers. That's for sure. I'll admit, like the digital tier is probably costing me a lot of money. I didn't have it at first. I had several people that were watching when I did my first stream when we launched it, and they wanted a digital tier, so I added it. That's probably costing me thousands of dollars if I could go back in time.
Yeah. So that was my big argument, because like when you introduce a digital tier, you automatically undercut your primary thing. So like for me, with Door Kickers, I'm considering a digital tier, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make, hey, if we get to $15,000, everybody who orders the physical book will get the digital copy as well. You know what I mean? Like as a stretch goal. And, you know, it's like the entry point, like, you know, and no donation, no nothing. It's a $20, you know, jump on. That's it. I mean, if you don't get to the $20, then.
Yeah.
My entire campaign's digital. I really didn't want to go through printing stuff, even though I do have a local printer. I did go over there. I talked to them and they said, well, you know, if you want this dimension, I think it was like 11 by 8 or standard comic book size, talking to like $12 per book creation. And I was like, that costs too much. And I just said, well, if I get a lot of support, I'll look into it, maybe get it at a cheaper price, because the more you print out, the lower the price goes. And I just said, I'll just stick to digital for now. Currently, right now, for $15, you get 4 books. That's included Outrider, Wicked Number Zero. Then you also get Helgarath, which is the anthology series. And when I get 50 backers, which is a stretch goal, you get like a 80-page, 3-chapter book called Under the Flesh.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
you get a lot of bang for your buck.
Yeah. Well, if that's the goal is digital, that's cool. When the goal is print, adding digital, if I did it again, it's going to be the same price. It makes sense to me why it's the same price on Amazon or like most places. The digital costs just as much as print, because it's not about printing. When you get to a certain level of, I'm going to be ordering 2,000 copies at least of the book, just because that's how many copies. I'm almost at 1,000 right now that have been ordered. So if I order 1,000, that's not enough, which is great because that brings the price down. But then it's all the costs and things. It has much less to do with getting the book printed, and it has a lot to do with getting the book made.
Has anybody bid on your retail tier yet?
Not yet, not so far. And I should tell everybody too. I added a retail tier. You get 10 books for $100. That's 5 of the cover A and 5 of the cover B. I thought that would be a good split. I know a lot of people have already backed with whichever tier they've already went with, and so it's really specific. You'd have to want a lot of books. If you're overseas, that does save you money though. Like if you got a bunch of your friends together, it'd save you on shipping, that's for sure.
So Papa Kimitsu over here has concerns about digital piracy. Yeah, piracy is always a concern, but even though piracy does exist, more people get exposed to your content. Either is it through piracy or buying a digital. Originally, when I started reading comic books and reading anime and manga, a lot of it back in the day was piracy. But as you go on, you eventually get income and your financials get stable. Eventually you want to support those people that make your stuff, because I used to pirate a lot of stuff. Now I'm buying a lot of the stuff I like because I like it and I want to own a physical copy of it. Because if you continue to pirate that said content, that person would just have to say, well, I had to cancel the series due to X, Y, and Z reasons, and then becomes that unfortunate situation. So even though maybe some people will pirate Wicked or Outrider or Helgarath, at least that gives it some exposure and people can see, well, this is written by this person. I can Google their name and see if they've written some other stuff, and maybe I can get invested into that way.
So I'd just like to take a second to say, hail Eric Weathers, designated letterer of Comicsgate.
That's right. Hey Eric, how's it going? He said I draw an Eric Weathers cover, winky face. I thought about
maybe that's the answer.
You could add another variant cover. You still run into the same problem. It has to be a separate tier, and you have to charge shipping for it. I can't add it to an existing tier. That's.
Oh, I mean, do you have access to an artist that somebody would pay, an additional $25 for?
I mean, yeah. Well, there's a lot.
So I think the answer is yes.
Yes,
you do. So I mean, that's just where so that's what you do. I mean, and then maybe you give it out. So maybe it's a $25 tier for everybody, and then you throw it out to your mailing list folks as a $20 tier.
Super secret. I'm curious to hear from people in chat. There's some people are so opposed to variant covers, but I'd be curious to hear. Gonzo the Great says I have 3 different Cyber Frog comics coming. It's true, man. I just don't want to abuse you guys. I don't want to feel like I'm doing anything. But if I got a variant cover, a 3rd variant cover, and it's shipped separately, it's totally like separate order, separate shipping, would you either give me a yes or a no? should I do that? That's something we could do. I'm just waiting for the backlash though of why is Sweetcast adding another variant cover?
I really like the Matthew Weldon cover for Downcast.
Gorgeous, huh?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
gorgeous.
so did you really sell the actual paper?
Yeah, the original. I sold it in 5 minutes for $1,000.
Yeah,
For Wicked, I don't know if you've seen it on my Twitter feed or not. He drew a picture of the 3 characters that appear that I was talking about earlier. I have that on my wall. It looks amazing.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
really like
mean,
his art.
it's beautiful. And I said like I'd want to keep it. I look at what Matthew Weldon's art goes for, generally speaking, and I thought I'd price it high. And 1,000. I mean, to be honest, $1,000 is high for Matthew Weldon, based off the auctions.
No, it is. Yeah.
For my $1,000 one, Ari, I can't think of his name right now. I can just call him Ari. Ariamis Juicy, the person that drew my promotional image, someone bought it for $1,000, but I'm pretty skeptical at this point if that's actually going to go through or not.
So here's what I'm thinking, man. Maybe like a a Mike.
You're talking about Mike Miller?
Yeah, maybe like a Mike Miller busty version of your girl, holding the sun, I mean, I could see that. That would be cool. I mean, because did you see the drawing he did of One Punch Man from Drawing Quarterly? Freaking amazing.
He's a good artist.
Yeah, especially with so I think he really, don't tell him I said this. This is totally secret between me and you, Clint. But I think his strength lies in his non-action work, like his, like these standing poses that he does. I mean, the line work is great. The proportions, it's just, especially with his women, are very sexy. So. I don't know, maybe something like that. Play to the strengths. I mean, he's a Comet Skates guy. He probably, I don't know how well you know him, but
I don't. I've been on a stream with him once or twice, but we haven't spoken much. That's the thing is like Kanan White.
He'd be.
Kanan White is actually doing a character design for me.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
I was gonna say like so I've asked some of the bigger artists, and they're they're busy. You know what I mean? And it, things change and stuff, but yeah, I don't know. It's something to think about. Gonzo the Great says tweet a survey out, engage interest. I think that's probably the way to go. I can also do one through YouTube with the community thing. I'll post out I'll let you guys vote on it and let me know. But
that would be like something I'd push out to the mailing list, because I think probably 50% of the people that would buy a second cover or a third cover would come from your mailing list.
You're probably right. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I could probably do a poll. I mean, yeah, I could do a poll. And a lot of it is what artist I've already, I don't want to say names or anything. I've talked to an artist that's legit in Comicsgate, and he'd be down to do it. There are a couple other things that come up, I guess. I don't know. I don't want to give out like too many specifics. There are a lot of logistics and money and things like that get involved. So yeah, my main thing is I don't want any of the backers to feel like they're being abused, or that I'm taking advantage of them. That's the big thing. I'm also curious with a t-shirt. So I got a few ideas. Another variant cover and t-shirt. I've already been talking to Crypto Fashion about that. I don't know what's taking so long.
You got to start being the squeaky wheel.
You have no idea. Yeah, again, I don't want to have a conversation off the air, but but yeah, so those are basically like the two feasible options I see. Digital's not going to help me. I'll tell you that. I'm considering actually making that digital tier hidden. I might do that. I
Oh
help.
man, tell
I
me
help.
about it. You want to hide it from me?
But I think the damage is already.
The damage is done. You're right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's cost me thousands of dollars.
So the thing that I've considered is I don't know how hard this would be to do with Indiegogo, but to literally make it at international only, like you literally have to prove that you're outside the country before I would sell you a digital copy. You know what I mean?
How would you do that? Take a picture of your driver's license?
I don't know how you would do that, but
I could make it secret and have people ask me. The thing is, people that really wanted it or have it right now. I'm seriously thinking about making it hidden so no one can get to it. Yeah, it's killing me. I'm curious, guys. If I had a Kyung Lee do a cover, if Kyung Lee did a cover of
He writes
Downcast,
Knuckle Bomb, right?
he writes Knuckle Bomb. He's the artist for Knuckle Bomb as well.
Ah,
yeah, Kyung Lee's good.
me and
good.
him are friends too.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. He said, "No way, I can get 2 copies for $25." Yeah, it's in the look at my thing. You can get both variant covers currently for $25. Gonzo the Great says sold. And then Eric Weathers saying hide it, but open it up after in the in-demand store maybe. Could be. I don't know. Yeah, I want to try to make such a push before. I don't know. Yeah, this is hard, guys. This is a learning experience.
Speaking of advantages of secret tiers and like joining the mailing lists and all that kind of stuff, I want to give you a chance to think about this, Clint, because I want to tell the folks that if they sign up to my mailing list, they'll not only get the free copy of Door Kickers, but they'll also get my secret tier, which I'm stealing directly from you. So.
Oh,
It's a win-win-win situation. Honestly,
Absolutely, it's a great, and it really builds your. So it's like you've got your audience, you've got your key demo, and then you've got your shadow audience, right? And this is getting into that comm stuff that we talk about. But I mean, your key demo are those people who are engaged, fans, and they are on your mailing list. So those are the people you got to take care of, I think.
yeah, it's the people watching right now. We got we're hover around 60 people, a little bit more, a little less, at the moment, and I'm assuming that just about everybody watching is on my mailing list. I mean, a lot of hardcore Sweetcast fans, and they've all gotten on the mailing list. That's been great. So yeah, that's the thing is like I want to reward people that are they're loyal. I like a customer loyalty kind of thing. I want to reward people that are willing to give me a shot. So yeah, definitely a mailing list for me. I mean, I thought it was a great way to do it. Win-win, really. So yeah, let me think about a variant cover. Yeah. I want you guys to be happy. That's all I want. I also want to make money. Let's face it. Because this is funding. That's the cool thing is that this is funding the next one. This is funding like a big one. Another thing is that it's cool because it gives like Nacho Lazaro, he's doing art full time and he's busting his butt. And so this has been really great for him too. Or it will be once we get the money through. I'm definitely going to take care of him. And
have you announced like say bonuses for the artists and all the other folks that are involved? Have you announced like like if we get to this point, we're gonna do like bonuses or anything?
So me and Nacho, I don't want to get too much into the financial, but we actually have a shared intellectual property.
No, say no more, man. Yeah.
So it's
all back in then.
Yeah. Well, I paid him a page rate up front, but we have additional back end stuff. And so he's actually, anytime it goes up, he's getting paid more. Like his page rate is exponentially going up the more that the campaign goes up. It was a deal. Like I didn't say like, hey, work for free and then I'll pay you if I make money afterward. We agreed on a page rate, and then if it's successful, if it reaches over a certain amount, then you're getting a rather large percentage of profits as well. So for him, this is a big deal. This is actually it can be life changing for an artist in Argentina. So
Yeah, I have a artist in Venezuela. If you don't know what's happening in Venezuela, it pretty much is the
100%.
apocalypse over there.
yeah,
So he's kind of struggling. I'm trying to help him leave, but it's taking a lot of effort.
yeah, that I can't imagine. That would be a tough situation. Uh, Arnaud Arose says, "Sweetcast, we want to help. We want to support creators. Yeah, man, that's any of these projects. You're not just supporting like mine. For you're not just helping me. Um, you're helping Eric Weathers even. I, yeah, that's he's the letterer. You know, you're helping Nacho Lazaro. You're helping the printer. You're helping like anybody that's involved in the project. Actually, it's creating work for a lot of people.
A man in Ludacy in the chat says always forgot to join the mailing lists and YouTube channels. So thanks to you guys for I've remedied that with a few creators tonight. No, so like the mailing list is important, and I want to give Clint and all the credit that he's due on this. And so like the idea of starting a mailing list is nothing new, and Clint wasn't the guy who told me this, but he's the first person I've seen in CG that really enacted it and made it successful, because what he did was two things. He gave you a reason to sign up. So it was a free novel. And then if you're signed up, you got something on the back end, i.e. you got into the secret tier, and you're able to save money on the initial. And, so that's really a great model. And then I see, Clint, I see you've been using that as for updates, beyond what you can do through Indiegogo. So, so it allows you to kind of further target your audience. So I want to just, say thank you to Clint for kind of showing the way on that. It's not innovative in of itself, but it's innovative in Comicsgate. So, and it's important for you guys to check these out.
Yeah, it's the reason. So it's two things. If a creator is saying I want you on my mailing list because of me, it doesn't work very well. It helped me immensely because I sold 95 backers at least. That doesn't even count how many backers went and me. Maybe they wanted the collector's bundle, or they wanted a different tier, so they went for something else. But getting 95 sales backers within the first 2 days, that's a big deal. So that helps me. And then by giving you guys a discount or something special and unique that's not for anybody that's just looking around Indiegogo, it helps you out. So yeah, the algorithm, I'm all about the algorithm, but Indiegogo has an algorithm too. And
Oh
so
man, the algorithm. YouTube's is terrible.
yeah, Indiegogo's is simple. I actually love it. It's better than Kickstarters in my opinion. But if you guys are collectively going in and backing on the first couple days, then that puts the campaign on the trending list on the front page, and it's up there for a while. And so you catch a lot of people because it's visible. So that was you all. So thank you for that. But yeah, so many people backing it in a short period of time. That's important. And we could do it again if I announce a variant cover or something and people are down for that. Getting another push in the middle of the campaign puts us back on the trending list. We get more people, that are just passersby to see it. So it's definitely it's helpful. Yeah, Gonzo the Great says if the chat would buy another cover, vote yup. Yeah, I would be curious to know. Dan Montgomery, thank you. Backer number 74. I really appreciate that. Somebody just backed now too, so thank you. They bought both covers A and B, so appreciate that.
I think no one's backed mine for maybe 2 days now.
It's tough, man. How are you mid campaign? How long have you been open?
Like Monday.
Oh, Monday. Yeah. Let's look at what you got. 1,085. and your goal is 2,800. 25 days left. I would think you're 38%. You should be able to get back. Absolutely. Oh, let me share the screen in case I. Sorry, guys. I'm all on the same thing here.
While we were talking this entire time, I managed to type an entire program.
You're coding while we're
Yes.
talking.
Uh-huh.
It's just that's impressive. Actually, I'm not upset whatsoever.
Hello there.
Real quick, I wanna just say, go back. Oh, I can't see his image anymore. Yeah, that image is awesome.
The cover?
Yeah, that is a really striking image.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was kind of when I was getting it all done. I wanted to show what kind of the world was becoming, but then I was like, then I had to set the time scale for the story back in time, so I had to change some things.
No, I mean that's just the mood of that is that kind of
It's kind
You
of a
know,
horror-ish story.
yeah. I
You heard
really
me
like it.
explain it.
I really like it.
Yeah, that's cool.
But
Yeah.
like I said, I was supposed to have a lot of pages done, but then that artist came around and said, I'm doing stuff when he was really doing nothing for like 45 days.
This artist is the cover artist, the one who ghosted you.
No, this is a different
Yeah.
artist. His name's Ben. Me and him are friends.
He's the concept artist.
Uh-huh.
Oh man, anything you can get him to do, that looks great. I mean, just he nails I don't know if he's nailing the atmosphere you want, but that atmosphere is awesome, in my
Uh-huh.
opinion.
Yeah, it's cool. I like that a lot.
Hey there.
And when you get mine, you get a bunch of free stuff, like I said, as well. Someone else is
Tug.
here.
I thought that was Tug for a second.
It's
I really
me.
did.
It's
did too.
Zug.
Eric, right?
Yeah, it's me.
Eric. That was a super great impression, man.
Thank you. Thank you. It's
Yeah.
the one I got. I can't do Michael Caine. I can't do anything cool like that, but I can say, hey there.
Yeah, Ryan Shearer is way too good at that Michael Caine impression. I'm jealous.
That is, yeah. His I can't do impressions at all. That's a really good one.
I used to practice the comic book cuts intro, just like privately, and I kept telling my wife, "Should I do a video? I want to start a video like that." And she's like, "You better not. Don't do it." You know, every time I try to be funny, it backfires massively. So
We know.
Hey there.
yeah,
know.
yeah. She's like, "Remember that time you did a little skit thing like way back? This was in November. You told me to tell you if you ever had an idea for something funny again, to tell you not to do it." So yeah,
Now that it's come out that Tug's in like Tennessee, I don't feel bad to saying this because I grew up as a kid in Middle Tennessee, and like hearing him, I was like, wow, I feel like I'm back in Waverly, Tennessee again, because that's exactly how people sound there.
yeah, he's got the accent down. Papa Kinasu says, "I miss the hut." I actually talked to the guy like on Twitter and stuff. We DM'd quite a few times, and I never had any problems with him. Kind of too bad. Him and like Comic Girl Ava, like she's gone now. She's just disappeared. It's just
Yeah.
crazy.
Completely
That's
She's
the
Yeah.
word
making
that I
videos
have.
for Alterna now.
Not anymore.
No?
Not anymore.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's like a life cycle. You get a whole new influx of YouTube reviewers or whatever personalities, and then I don't know, a few months later, a lot of them wash out.
That's why I don't want to do reviews, is because it's just, you know me, I haven't figured out what I want to do yet. So I'll have like unboxing videos and I'll talk about a thing here and a thing there. I haven't narrowed it down for me because I don't want to be something I'm not. I want to be authentic to me, and I'm not really very into the drama all that much. Even my video on the Tug Deadbeats thing, I wasn't even like I don't feel like I was clowning on Deadbeats. I was like, back who you want, but it's just not. I don't really get into all the drama. So
Was this the person that didn't understand simple logistics?
Sorry. Oh, Deadbeats is that's just that's a
the SJW comics.
Yeah.
SJW
Oh.
anthology.
I remember you were in a thread with that, and someone was saying, "Oh, well, the production, blah blah blah, and you're fattening up your pockets because you're not using the money properly, or something, or you're making an excess amount of
Oh,
money."
you're talking about Aaron Alvarez and
Yeah,
his
Oh yeah, that yeah.
don't make profit off of crowdfunding. Yeah,
Not
that's
what it's
ridiculous.
for.
that's not how logistics work, though.
Man,
Also, newsprint is too expensive.
yeah, that's
Oh
another
my
one
God.
too.
Nobody wants newsprint.
Yeah. Oh man.
I did like Pete's response to those tweets. That was pretty good.
Yeah, that was really funny. So he's doing it. So he's been doing it. Scotty Richards Studios is asking, can you ask Eric Weathers if he is booked up with lettering jobs or is he taking new work? I think the answer is he's taking new work. Is that
I'm
right?
taking new work. That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He is
Hey,
a lettering master. So yeah, lay it on him.
Hey,
Yeah.
Eric. So when I was on John's show earlier this evening, he's like, "Oh, well, your book kind of reminds me of Operation Zephyr," and I was like, "Yeah." I mean,
Yeah.
it's in the same vein, but his is more, his is more fun and mine's more serious. He's like, "Well, do you have a letterer
Of
yet?"
course. Yeah. He's been
I
my
was,
biggest champion.
oh yeah, no,
He really
that's
has. Yeah.
well, but what's funny is you've really filled a niche within CG. I mean, there's just not a lot of good top shelf letterers here, and you're doing it.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I mean, I kind of just fell into it. And as long as it keeps working for me, I feel like I'm just going to keep doing it because, as you can see, everybody seems to be, there are new people every day saying, I need a letterer for this. I need a letterer for that. And people will start, I've been tagged in Twitter posts about it. Like Edwin has tagged me in, Eric Nienoltowski was looking for a letterer. So now I'm doing something for
Well,
him.
but
And,
from a marketing standpoint, I mean, looking at CG as a, okay, so like our primary market, of course, is CG, and people who are
mhm.
interested in it. And then beyond that, of course, we all want to broaden our market, but within CG, it's like, you want to associate yourself with CG in order to, to align with the audience. And, if I can say, yeah, like Kyle's doing my colors and Eric's doing my letters, it's like, that's that shorthand
Mhm.
that gets people, oh, this guy is like, this is going to be a good book,
Right.
and beyond the art and beyond the writing, we just know it's going to be, handled with care.
Yeah, and as the longer this goes, there will be more talent that props up. I am doing a book right now, and you guys, you guys, you guys, you're gonna love Monster MD. And
Oh,
there's gonna be
the
What's
pencils
it
are
about?
awesome.
the art that you're gonna see out of that book. If you haven't seen it already, it will blow you away. The line artist is fantastic. The colorist looks great. I'm actually thinking about
Yeah.
seeing if she wants to color Operation Zephyr. I need to find, like, I'm going to balance with Oz. I'm really thinking about doing just pencils only and doing that sort of, Dark Horse Conan, Carrie Nord, Lionel Yu from when he does Ultimate Avengers, Joe Mad, that sort of,
That kind of soft pencils with
pencils.
yeah.
I
I
might
think it's
darken them a
cool.
little bit, but here's the thing. I've always wanted to be just a penciler, and I've never done it. I've always inked my own work. I think I might take that leap with Operation Zephyr.
Yeah.
If you have like the colors like almost like a watercolor style with that would be
Mhm.
really
Yeah, I'm
cool.
thinking like if you looked at, I was talking with Von Klaus about it last night. We had a quick meeting about some lettering stuff, and he pointed me towards the Conan stuff, the Conan Dark Horse series from like 10 years ago, 15 years ago almost. And Dave Stewart did the colors. They're very muted. They're very, like you said, watercolor. They didn't look exactly like watercolor, but I get the point you're saying. And the values of pencil can really bring out more. It can really just enhance
So
the artwork.
if your colorist is talented, they can really do some amazing things with like light and value with the watercolor style.
Hmm.
I'm having a hard time off the top of my head thinking of anybody who's done that well. But I've seen I guess what I'm referencing is the Japanese manga originals that are literally pencils, inks, and then watercolor,
Hmm.
and it just looks great.
Yeah.
It's just there is a very kind of tangible feeling because you have to have some talent to really do that watercolor. Now the hard part is to find somebody with talent who could do that. But
That's the thing. There's going to be a search. I mean, Oz is there's still a lot of it that's preliminary. The campaign was updated today on IndieCron. We are, I'm going to try and get it launched by July 31st. But I want to have that stuff nailed down. I want to know who's going to color it. I want to have the right pages, all of that stuff. So there are characters that are in this book that I still haven't nailed down their design yet, things like that. So we're still early on, and I think in this process, being able to find the right colors is going to be important.
A colorist I want to work with more, Derek Dow. He did the colors on the Matthew Weldon variant. He does a lot of textures and stuff. It's a very specific style. You can see it coming, but
Hmm.
um,
I'm
yeah, I don't
making
know.
notes.
Yeah, Derek Dow. I've got his email address too if you're interested.
Yeah.
But I will say the colorist. I had Vaughn on my show on Monday night, and yeah, you're right. Monster MD looks amazing.
Yeah.
Everything.
yeah, he was showing off pages on the kids table the other day, and this is some new stuff that he's just got, and I was floored by it. I mean, it's as good as anything that's coming out of any of the bigs.
Yeah, I mean, you could see that book easily being published with Image for sure. Like, if he wanted to, he
Yeah.
could submit it. They would turn him down because of Comicsgate, I'm sure. But who needs them? Who needs them anyway? Angram's asking, what book was Eric referencing just now for colors? I want to check it out. That's Operation Zephyr. That is Eric's book.
I
It's
think
on.
she means what I was talking about, the books that I was looking at.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was it Conan, wasn't it?
Yeah,
It
the
was
Conan series from 2006, and there are
the
like
Dark Horse stuff. It's in a trade paperback.
it's
That's where
Busick, Kurt Busick is the writer. So look up Conan Busick or Conan Nord, Nord. Carrie Nord was the artist.
Yeah, Carrie Nord, right?
Yeah, a lot of great stuff. So the only thing I have right now with pencils is so I've been doing a lot of deep dives in like Pinterest boards and stuff. Is I want to know how detailed I can get without worrying about loss of quality. This pencils smudge, inks don't smudge. There's going to be that. So do I play with more of a less of a detailed style, which I do like to put a lot of detail in, but I'm still tinkering.
So this take this with a grain of salt. I mean, it's coming from somebody who has a studio art degree, so I mean, I know a little bit about art, but I think if you're gonna do that, you got to get away from comic style pencils and go more into the traditional penciled value style. Where you're really kind of getting into
Rendering everything.
Yeah, exactly. And anywhere that's going to be light, you just leave it white, right? But anything that's going to have detail, that's where you get your 3B pencil out, and you're going to have to get darker on it, and maybe you control the blacks and they control the colors. It's like the color. I think you got to sit down and have a talk with your colorist first and say, listen, you control the lights, and I'll leave that white. I'm going to control the value. Especially to the blacks, and I think that would be a really kick-ass style, especially with digital. The way you can do digital stuff nowadays.
Yeah, and there are examples. I'm not sure I want to go into that much detail as far as like proper shading. I still think a comic style with hatching and cross hatching will still work because I've seen plenty of examples of it. Like Lionel Yu's stuff when he did the New Avengers back in 06. I can't find a good high res of it, but there's a lot of
is he the guy who did like some of the Secret War stuff?
yeah, he's done that. He's sort of all around doing everything. But he has a very the Ultimate Wolverine versus Hulk series that came out, I guess, in about 2006. That was that same style. A lot of the stuff he did when he worked on New Avengers was that style. He does have an inker that he uses occasionally. Well, actually a lot, but he pumps out a lot of work. So sometimes it's inked by Mark Morales, but most of the time it's inked by Gary Aguilera or something like that. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he's one of the bigger influences of mine. Lionel Yu is.
So guys, I hate to be abrupt about this. I'm going on to Professor Geek's stream. Like right now, it's 10. I just realized Mountain Time.
It's midnight where I live.
Midnight, yeah. We've been going, yeah. So yeah, I have to end the stream. This was so much fun though, guys. I think we had a really good discussion. So yeah, it seems like I know a lot of people are streaming tonight. If you're interested in checking out Professor Geek's stream, do so. I think they're starting like literally right now. And then don't forget to back Downcast, guys. I'm gonna look into variant cover, and I'm gonna look again into getting those T-shirts up for you guys. So stay tuned. And then everybody here has got a book. We've got Wicked, Ari, right?
Ori
has got Wicked out, and then Operation Zephyr is from Eric, and then Scott has got Door Kickers, and those are both coming soon. So this summer sounds like. So yeah, everyone go raid the professor. We'll jump over there. So thanks everybody, and we'll see you next time.